Hey, Catalyst, JR here, and I wanted to give you a heads up about our Ash Wednesday gathering, which is coming up on Wednesday, obviously, February 26th, which is the next Wednesday that happens after this. So this coming Wednesday. I always like to talk about Ash Wednesday, even though we've been doing it at least as long as I've been at Catalyst, because a lot of people don't know what it is. If like me, you grew up in a tradition that didn't celebrate Ash Wednesday, it could still be pretty confusing to you. And so I want to take just a couple of minutes to talk a little bit about what Ash Wednesday is and why we do it together. So, Ash Wednesday is how we kick off the season of Lent, which is a 6 week period that the church has historically set aside to prepare us for the Easter celebration. Easter is, of course, when we celebrate Jesus being resurrected from the dead and our victory over sin and death. And, for me growing up, we grew up Southern Baptist. So, again, we didn't celebrate Lent. We didn't celebrate Ash Wednesday or any of that. So, Easter was one of those holidays that it always felt like it just kind of crept up on us. Like we were going along, going through school. We might have had spring break or not, depending on when Easter falls. And then all of a sudden, bam, it's time to go get new clothes, new Easter clothes and go to church on Sunday. And it was almost over before we'd realized it. And for Christians, Easter is our most important holiday. It's even more important than Christmas because, of course, it's when we celebrate our victory over sin and death that Jesus purchased for us through his death and resurrection. So Lent is a way for us to take Easter really, really, really seriously, to spend 6 weeks preparing ourselves to celebrate together. And the way we prepare is by considering what our own sin is, by taking seriously the fact that we need to be delivered from sin and death in our own lives. So that's why during Lent we spend a lot of time talking about what kind of sins exist in our lives, how we can find those, how we can work with God to root those out and to spot them in our lives. And then, of course, that prepares us during Holy Week from Palm Sunday through Good Friday and leading into Easter morning to confess those things, to turn from them, to be considering what it looks like for us to be rescued and delivered, so that when we come in together on Easter Sunday morning to celebrate, we experience this deep freedom that we've been aching and longing for because we spent over a month together considering that and preparing to be rescued from that. So one of the primary ways Christians have historically celebrated Lent or observed Lent, if you don't really think that thinking about your sin and confession are celebratory, that's okay, right? One of the primary ways we've observed Lent is with the Lenten fast. It's a 40-day fast, and traditionally Christians have fasted from something like food, so they might give up a particular food item. Again, historically, a lot of Christians gave up meat, and they didn't eat meat during Lent. But today, a lot of Christians fast from all kinds of stuff. You've probably already seen people on social media talking about how they're going to give up a particular social media platform or another for Lent. You might be fasting from some kind of something you enjoy. Like I had a friend one time who fasted from sleeping in. He liked to hit his snooze button like 50 times. So he said, you know what, during the season of Lent, I'm going to make it a practice that the first time my alarm gets off, I'm going to get up. So again, that's kind of like an abstracted sort of a thing, but it was a good practice for him to sacrifice something that he enjoyed as a small way of participating in Jesus' sacrifice. And that's actually an important part of the Lenten sacrifice. Every year it seems like I have conversations with someone who says, I really need to quit smoking, or I really need to watch my diet, or I really need to quit cussing, and so I'm going to give those things up for Lent. And I always tell them, hey, if you're trying to have better habits in your life, I fully support that, and I want to encourage you in that and participate with you in that however I can. But don't give those things up as a Lenten fast, because the whole point of the Lenten fast, it's 40 days that mimics Jesus' 40 days in the wilderness when he was fasting and preparing for his earthly ministry. And so the whole point of a Lenten fast is that we're giving something up as a way of participating in Jesus' sacrifice, and it's meant to be something that's good, something that we long for, something that we enjoy, so that on Easter Sunday, when we break our fast, we can have the joy and the freedom of celebrating that. And in fact, it's really not just Easter Sunday. If you are a math nerd, you might have already had your calendar out and been counting the number of days between Ash Wednesday and Easter Sunday, and notice that it's not 40 days, it's 46 days. Well, that's because there's 6 Sundays between Ash Wednesday and Easter Sunday, and for Christians, Sunday is a feast day. It's the day that we gather to celebrate Jesus' resurrection from the dead, not just once a year, but weekly, right? Every Sunday. And so for Christians, it's important that we don't fast on feast days, on days of celebration. And so during Lent, we call Sundays mini Easters. And the expectation is that we break our fast and enjoy, celebrate sort of that little celebration that helps us look forward to Easter. So, if you give up chocolate, have a chocolate sundae. If you gave up Facebook, go ahead and scroll through that timeline, or comment on some friends, or wish them happy birthday if you missed it, or whatever, right? The point of the Lenten fast is to give up something we enjoy, so that when we break it, we experience the joy that comes from freedom in Christ, that Christ brings us. So I hope now, we have a week before Lent begins. I hope you're beginning to pray and consider what it means for you, and what God might be inviting you to fast from, what God might be inviting you to give up, to sacrifice as a way of participating in Jesus' sacrifice to help us focus on how God is rescuing us. Now, our theme at Catalyst this year at Lent is under pressure. And we're looking at the 7 churches of the Revelation. So the book of Revelation, the big scary one at the end of the Bible, was actually written to 7 churches in the Roman province of Asia, which is modern-day Turkey. And all of those churches were facing pressures of what it looks like to be faithful to Jesus in a world where people did not care about Jesus and were oftentimes actively opposed to the way of Jesus. And so all 7 of these churches had that same tension, and they were all navigating that tension in different ways. Some of them were being really faithful to Jesus. Some of them had completely abandoned the way of Jesus in favor of the way of Rome. And then some of them were kind of somewhere in between, trying to figure out what that accommodation looked like and what it looked like to be faithful in a world that wasn't faithful. So we actually have a lot in common with those churches today, and especially as we enter into this political season where we're feeling a lot of the pressures about coming up in November. I think it's important for us as a church to ask what it looks like for us to be faithful in the midst of unfaithfulness, in the midst of a culture that's pressuring us to be very un-Jesus-like. And so we're going to be taking these churches one by one, looking at what the problem was that they faced, how they encountered it, and how Jesus again and again and again affirmed that he was the answer to the church's problems in surprising and different ways. So I'm really looking forward to it. I think it'll help us hold up a mirror to ourselves and ask how we need a better picture of Jesus than we already have. So again, that all kicks off on Ash Wednesday, which is Wednesday, February 26th. I hope you can join us. We're working on live streaming it, so even if you can't be present with us physically and receive the communion and the ashes, hopefully you can still join us virtually. And again, in the meantime, between now and Wednesday, I hope that you're praying and asking God what God would be inviting you to give up, to fast, and how God is inviting you to participate in this Lenten season as a way of preparing our spirits to celebrate the joy of the resurrection that's coming up here in a couple of months. Thanks. I look forward to seeing you Sunday, and of course I look forward to seeing you on Wednesday when we gather to celebrate Ash Wednesday and kick off the Lent season together. Grace and peace be with you.